Yo, what up guys? Travic here, and today I want to talk about Path of Exile 1's most upcoming expansion. We are 1 day and 6 hours away from the latest update, Path of Exile Keeper of the Flames, and I've seen a lot of really cool information about it. Today's video is going to cover two things. One, we're going to catch up on what we know is coming, and two, we're going to ask a very interesting question. Now, Path of Exile's expansion is called Keepers of the Flames. The real question I have is who are or what is the Keeper of the Flames? We've seen a lot of really interesting things like this image here. We've seen some other couple of things, and I have a little bit of a theory. Now, it's a little crazy, it's a little off the rails, but I think it'll be a lot of fun to talk about. First and foremost, let's jump into what is the expansion and what's going on. Path of Exile released this teaser trailer to kind of catch us up to speed about what's going on.
The worst has come to pass.
Let's just take a quick look.
The Hiveborn have invaded our world. We must drive them back before it is too late.
Chills every time. It's such a good teaser. Now, this screamed a lot about a Breach rework, so we're assuming that there's a Breach rework coming. Alongside that, Path of Exile has given us a lot of very other cool information. Like the heist rogues will start at their max level. This makes starting rogues very convenient. The Path of Exile is also telling us that we can now refund their entire passive tree. They're telling us stack decks are getting a huge quality of life, and this expansion is giving us more and more quality of life. We've even in these teaser trailers seen releases and glimpses of the asynchronous trade coming to Path of Exile 1, one of the most requested features by myself and a lot of my friends. Knowing all of this, this leads me to a very interesting question. All of these quality of life features that are coming are things that we're getting incorporated between both Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2. So my question kind of becomes like this. If we're talking about a Breach rework and we're talking about the Keeper of Flames and the monsters in the little snippet look like this, what is really going on? Well, I think my theory for a long time has been that Path of Exile 2 has its own unique story that ties slightly back into Path of Exile 1. You see Alva go back in time, you see Doriani, you see a lot of remnants of Ray class from the past, from the front, and you kind of have this nice little back and forth. So I kept thinking to myself, well, if this is a Breach rework, how does this tie into Path of Exile 2? Because in some world, the story from 1 needs to eventually get to 2 while never getting there, but becoming closer and closer. So we've seen time and time again in Path of Exile 1 where they've given us little tidbits, like we've saw Trials of the Ancestors in PoE 1 where Navali was like, it's not time, and she just kind of dips out, and then we see her in PoE 2 again, and once again, she's like, it's not time. And I think there's a lot of elements in both Path of Exile 1 that tie into 2 and 2 that are gonna tie into 1. And the reason I say this is if I bring up my PoE 2 game, I have it here currently paused inside of Breach. If we just take a look at these monsters crawling up to us, this really does look a lot like what we just saw in that teaser trailer. They have the same little purple flame, they have everything that's going on, and I'm really inclined to believe and agree with a lot of people that this is a Breach rework. We could see it just in the look of the mobs that are here. Now, I have Path of Exile 2 loaded up and in this Breach for a very specific reason, because I think there's a very key important line coming up when we get to Zesh that might lead us to fully accept that maybe it is a Breach rework, but maybe not in the sense that, you know, Chayula and all of them are coming back. Maybe it's a rework in the sense that whatever happened to the Breach Lords to give us Zesh is what's coming. Or maybe Zesh is going to be the new big pinnacle boss. Now, I'm gonna turn up my game sounds a little bit here so that we can hear what's going on. And we're just gonna listen very quickly to the voice lines that are coming out of Zesh. And then it'll tie a little bit more into what I have going on, or what I think is going on, and who the Keeper of the Flames are. So let's just bring him out. So you see the flame there. He had the flame in his chest. Okay, so you can see he's holding the flame. the flame is within his body, and he says things like, "We are one, we are the nightmare." And even his name is We That Are One. And this ties into the whole hive mechanic very, very, very well. So I have this theory, and I'm sure it's not groundbreaking rocket science, that while Breach is getting reworked, I think that we're going to see Zesh, or some variation of Zesh, make an appearance in Path of Exile 1 as the new big bad pinnacle boss. Now, there's a part of me that says maybe Egon, or, you know, the guy who did the 16-5s and who was chasing after Zana, did something and awoken something. And I think we're going to see some sort of tie into that, where, you know, where we set the Atlas aflame and all that jazz is happening. I think a lot of that's going to tie into what's going on. And we're going to see just very quickly that him searching for his sister is going to cause all this eruption and cause the new Breach monsters and awaken some evil prime entity. Now, with Keepers of the Flame, it can go two ways. One, Keepers of the Flame can be these Breach monsters, and, you know, we've awakened them and they're what's going on. Or two, it could take a very interesting approach, very similar to Diablo 2. We saw in Act 2 of Diablo 2, the whole Worldstone Chamber and Tal Rasha and the whole 9 yards and the Keepers, and they're kind of trying to keep the Worldstone under order. So it got me thinking, like, what if there was a character, or what if there was a playable character that was indeed the Keeper of the Flame, or was a part of this that kind of kept everything in check, and then once we awoke and whatever, they kind of reactivated. You know, like this like whole like crazy, like they were hidden undercover and we didn't know they were a thing, and then, you know, Egon messes up the Atlas, everything goes to hell, the Breach lords are destroyed, the hive comes out, and it got me thinking, what if this is the setup to the monk? Now, crazy, I know, bear with me. Now, in Path of Exile 2, we have the monk. I'm not saying that monk is coming to Path of Exile 1. Well, I would love for them to expand the roster in Path of Exile 1 and give us new characters. I think Keeper of the Flames, and this is just a crazy theory from a guy who talks to his computer. I don't know anything, but what if this is leading into the setup for the monk origin story? And the reason I say this is, you see this monk and you see this image of the monk, and this is directly out of the game because this is Path of Building, so like they import these images in, and this acolyte of Chayula is sitting in front of this purple flame. He's doing what he's doing, and all of his skills revolve around embracing the darkness, you know, deepening shadows. He's walking the dream, and he's walking into a breach. He's lucid dreaming, and everything about his ascendancy, even the image of him, is just a guy who's like protecting the flame, or he's keeping the flame, he's keeping the order. Even if you look at the other monk, he's just kind of like setting up to protect something. He's meditating, he's doing what monks, you know, do. And, you know, we know that monks, you know, while they're in the whole monastery, they keep secrets, they hold the whole 9 yards, and they're like protectors. So I'm really inclined to believe that this is some sort of setup to releasing the monk in Path of Exile 2. And I think if this is the case, we're going to see a lot more expansions or a lot more updates in the future leading to very similar things, like with more background origin stories. You know, we might see one for like the marksman in the future, so forth and so on. And I think this opens up a lot of really cool doors for Path of Exile 1 and leads in a lot of really interesting ways. Because if this is Zesh, and we do get Zesh in PoE 1, and the Breach Lords do go away, and then for sure we kind of know that that's what's going on. Now, there is a video, in one of these videos, they showcase and they start showing us all the new stuff that's going on. And you can see there's a passive tree rework, and I believe it's this one. So if we come here, we can even see that when he opens up his passive tree, the areas of the passive tree, like down here, that would normally be Breach, are now something else. And then everything that was Breach was moved around, like all the Breach nodes up here are gone. These are now Beyond nodes. These are the Beyond nodes. And you see where a lot of the original Breach stuff is just gone. So this has to tie in somehow to where did they go, what happened to the Breach Lords, and what's really going on. So I think what we're going to see, and just kind of like to recap my thoughts, because I know I'm a little all over the place, is I think we're getting an expansion that talks about what happens to all of the Breach Lords. I think the Breach Lords might have messed up some way, somehow. They didn't fulfill their duty. Egon sets the whole Atlas on fire, searching for Zana. He awakens some evil mystical being that realizes the Breach Lords are idiots. He gets rid of all the Breach Lords because he is going to be the one, and the Hive comes together to form a new entity, being Breach 2.0. And that entity is going to be the thing that awakens the monks or starts on this journey of bringing the monks out of whatever they're doing to start fighting the big bad. And then while I don't think we'll be able to play Monk in Path of Exile 1 ever due to like constraints and engine and all that stuff, I do think that they will make some sort of appearance in the story to set up the story for Path of Exile 2. And I think we're going to see a lot of that same following trend in PoE 1 for PoE 2, where they're going to introduce a mechanic. For example, Sanctum, we had Ultimatum, we had, Trials of the Ancestors, we had Crucible, and we see remnants of Crucible. I think Path of Exile 1 is going to be this like really cool ground where they can showcase and tease things, or they can use it to explain things that are coming in the future. So you're either going to get PoE 1 is going to be the setup work for Path of Exile 2 future expansions, or future expansions are going to be the setup work for prequels in Path of Exile 1. That's just kind of like where I'm going with it. I don't think there's too much more to really go on with it. We're 24 hours or 24 hours or 30 hours. We're 30 hours out from seeing what's actually going on and what really is going to happen. And, all of these little quality of lives, even yesterday when they announced that Spectres were going to stay, is just like, well, Path of Exile 2 bleeding into Path of Exile 1. And this is what's like kind of reinforcing these thoughts that maybe they are just trying to combine the games in some fashion, maybe not in gameplay, but in story, especially with mechanics like starting to tie in together. But these are just the crazy ramblings of a crazy man. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I did mostly want to get my thoughts out before the reveal tomorrow so that if I was right, we're, hell yeah. And if I was wrong, well, I'm just another crazy conspiracy theory. But I will say, think about it. Could this actually be the release of the Monk? Or could this be the Monk origin story? What else could the Keeper of Flames possibly be besides being Zesh? We know that it's going to be Zesh in some sort of fashion. But if there is a big bad, there's usually something or someone that knew of the big bad and was just waiting for it. So who's waiting for it? Who knows about it? Who was aware of this? Because somebody had to be aware of this before it came out. So, just little really interesting questions I wanted to leave you guys with, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. But for now, friends, I'm going to video to you guys, and, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Maybe we're onto something. Maybe we're not. Also, if you like videos like this or you want me to expand on my thoughts some more, please let me know. All of your feedback is truly appreciated and kind of gives me direction on what you guys like and what you guys don't like. But for now, friends, I'm going to video to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.